Staff Sergeant Marcus Wright had been pinned down for 43 minutes. 43 minutes of watching Wright's squad get picked apart by a single sniper. Corporal Jenkins took a round through the neck, dead before Jenkins hit the ground. Private Lawson caught one in the chest. Body armor stopped it, but Lawson's ribs were shattered. Specialist Grant got hit in the leg, femoral artery. Grant bled out in 6 minutes, while Wright held pressure on the wound and screamed for a medic who couldn't reach them. 3 men down, 1 shooter, and Wright couldn't get a fix on the position. The shots came from different angles, different elevations. Whoever this was, they were good. Professional. Deadly. What Wright didn't know was that in exactly 17 minutes, Wright would corner this ghost, would discover the shooter's identity, and would make a choice that would define Wright as either a soldier or something more, something harder to name. The valley was a kill box, narrow, rocky, one way in, one way out. Wright's squad had been moving through on a routine patrol when the first shot came. No warning, no demand to surrender, just sudden violence from an invisible enemy. Wright pressed Wright's body against a boulder. Wright's radio crackled. Lieutenant Foster's voice came through. Foster said to Wright, "Wright, what's your status? We're hearing contact." Wright said to Foster, "We're pinned down. Single shooter, high ground, 3 casualties. Jenkins, KIA, Grant, KIA. Lawson wounded critical. We need immediate QRF and medevac." Foster said to Wright, "QRF is 30 minutes out. Can you hold?" Wright looked at Wright's remaining men. 5 soldiers, running low on ammunition, 1 critically wounded, and a sniper who seemed to know exactly where they were. Wright said to Foster, "We'll hold, but send that bird fast." Another shot rang out, hit the rock 6 inches from Wright's head. Chips of stone cut Wright's face. The shooter was toying with them now, showing Wright exactly how helpless they were. Sergeant Ortiz crawled over to Wright. Ortiz said to Wright, "I think I got a fix. Northeast ridge, maybe 800 meters. I saw a muzzle flash on that last shot." Wright pulled out binoculars, scanned the ridge, saw nothing. Then movement. Brief, a shadow shifting position. Wright marked the location mentally. Wright said to Ortiz, "I see it. If we can get suppressing fire, I can flank around. Come up from the east side." Ortiz said to Wright, "That's a kilometer through open ground. You'll be exposed." Wright said to Wright's remaining squad, "We don't have a choice. This shooter will pick us off one by one if we stay here. I need volunteers to lay down covering fire while I move." Private Dixon and Specialist Ramirez both raised their hands. Good soldiers, scared but committed. Wright briefed them on the plan. When Wright gave the signal, they'd open up on the ridge. Full auto, burn through magazines, create enough chaos that the sniper would focus on them instead of Wright. Wright waited for the right moment, counted Wright's breaths, steadied Wright's nerves. Then Wright gave the signal. Dixon and Ramirez opened fire. Hundreds of rounds poured into the ridge. The sniper returned fire, quick, precise, trying to locate the new threats. While the sniper was distracted, Wright ran. Wright moved fast, low, using every piece of cover. Wright's lungs burned. Wright's legs screamed. But Wright kept moving, circling, flanking, getting closer to that ridge. "Before we continue, I need to hear from you. Drop your name and what city or country you're watching from in the comments. Let's see how far this incredible story reaches." Wright reached the base of the ridge, started climbing, slow, quiet, Wright's rifle ready. Wright could still hear gunfire from Wright's squad. They were running low. Wright could tell by the gaps between bursts. Wright needed to move faster. Wright crested the ridge, moved along it, toward the sniper position. Wright saw it, a natural hide, rocks forming a perfect shooting position with sight lines down into the valley and movement inside. Wright approached from behind. Weapon raised, Wright's finger on the trigger, ready to end this, to eliminate the threat that had killed Wright's men. Wright reached the position, swung around, aimed, and froze. The sniper was a child, a boy, maybe 14 years old, thin, dirty, wearing mismatched clothing, and bleeding. The boy had been hit. One of the suppressing fire rounds had found its mark. The wound was in the boy's abdomen, serious, possibly fatal without treatment. The boy looked up at Wright. The boy's rifle was on the ground, out of reach. The boy's hands were pressed against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. The boy's eyes showed pain, fear, but also resignation. The boy knew what came next. Wright stared at the boy. Wright's mind couldn't process it. This child had killed Jenkins and Grant, had wounded Lawson, had pinned down Wright's entire squad, and now the child was dying, helpless, looking at Wright with eyes that had seen too much and expected nothing. Wright's training said, eliminate the threat. The boy was enemy combatant, regardless of age. Rules of engagement were clear. But Wright's humanity said something else. Said this was a child, wounded, dying, alone. Wright lowered Wright's weapon. Wright knelt beside the boy. Wright said in rough Pashto, I'm not going to hurt you. Let me see the wound. The boy stared at Wright, confusion in the boy's eyes. The boy said in English, broken but understandable, Why? You should kill me. I killed your friends. Wright said to the boy, You're wounded. You need help. The boy said to Wright, I am enemy, Taliban. You are American. We kill each other. This is war. Wright said to the boy, You're a child. This isn't your war. The boy laughed. Bitter sound. The boy said to Wright, I have no choice. Taliban has my family. My mother, 2 sisters. They say I fight or family dies. So I fight. Wright felt something crack inside Wright's chest. Wright said to the boy, They're forcing you, using your family as hostages? The boy nodded. The boy said to Wright, Many boys like me. Forced to fight. Commander takes our families, makes us soldiers. We fight or they die. I choose to fight, choose to live. But now I die anyway. Wright looked at the wound. It was bad. The boy needed surgery, real medical care. But Wright had supplies in Wright's kit, enough to stabilize him. Maybe. Wright made a decision. Wright said to the boy, I'm going to try to save you. Stay still. Wright worked quickly. Pressure bandages, hemostatic agents, IV fluids. Everything Wright had. The boy watched Wright work. The boy said to Wright, Why do you help me? I killed your men. Wright said to the boy, Because you're someone's son, someone's brother. And maybe if I save you, someone somewhere will save someone I love. Wright got the bleeding under control. The boy was stable. For now. Wright called for medevac. Told them Wright had a wounded enemy combatant, child soldier, critically wounded, needed immediate evacuation. The response came back hesitant. Command wasn't sure about using resources for enemy wounded. Wright argued, cited Geneva Conventions, medical ethics. Eventually they agreed. Bird would be there in 20 minutes. Wright stayed with the boy. Kept the boy talking, kept the boy conscious. Wright asked the boy's name. The boy said his name was Fahim. Fahim had been fighting for 8 months. Fahim had killed 6 men before today. Fahim hated every moment of it. But Fahim's mother and sisters were alive because Fahim had obeyed. Fahim asked Wright's name. Wright told him. Fahim said to Wright, Sergeant Wright, when I die, will you tell my mother I tried, that I fought to keep her safe? Wright said to Fahim, "You're not going to die. I'm not going to let you." The helicopter came, lifted Fahim out. Wright watched it disappear into the sky. Wright returned to Wright's squad. They'd survived. Lawson would make it. Jenkins and Grant were gone, and Wright had saved the person who killed them. Wright's men didn't understand. Some were angry, said Wright should have let the kid die. Others were confused, wondered why Wright would help enemy combatant. Wright couldn't explain it, just knew it was right. 3 years passed. Wright finished Wright's deployment. Came home, tried to forget Afghanistan, tried to forget the valley, the ambush, the boy named Fahim. Then Wright received a letter, forwarded through military channels. The return address was Munich, Germany. The letter was handwritten, in careful English. The letter said, "Sergeant Wright, my name is Fahim Azizi. You saved my life 3 years ago in Kunar province. The doctors at the field hospital told me you stayed with me, kept me alive until help came, argued to get me evacuated. They said without you, I would have died. I am writing to thank you and to ask if we can meet. I am studying medicine now, in Germany, refugee status. I want to thank you in person. I want you to know what your choice meant. Please, if you can, come to Munich. Let me show you gratitude." Wright stared at the letter. Wright's hands were shaking. Wright had wondered about Fahim, whether the boy had survived, what had happened to him. Now Wright knew. Fahim was alive, free, studying medicine, living the life Fahim deserved. Wright bought a plane ticket. The meeting was at a cafe in Munich. Wright arrived early, nervous. Wright didn't know what to expect. What do you say to someone you saved who killed your friends? Fahim arrived exactly on time. Older now, 17, taller, healthier. But Wright recognized the eyes. The same eyes that had looked at Wright in that shooting position. Expecting death, receiving mercy. Fahim saw Wright. Fahim's face lit up. Fahim crossed the cafe quickly. Fahim said to Wright, "Sergeant Wright, thank you for coming. Thank you for everything." They sat, talked. Fahim told Wright what had happened after the evacuation. The military had treated Fahim's wounds, interrogated Fahim, learned about the forced recruitment, about Fahim's family held hostage. The military had launched a rescue operation, found Fahim's mother and sisters, freed them, killed the Taliban commander who'd been running the child soldier program. Fahim and Fahim's family had been relocated to Germany as refugees. Given asylum, support. Fahim had gone to school, learned German, applied to university, got accepted to study medicine. Fahim wanted to become a doctor, to save lives the way Wright had saved Fahim's life. Wright listened. Wright felt something Wright hadn't felt in 3 years. Pride, relief, validation that Wright's choice had been right, that saving Fahim had mattered. Then Fahim said something that changed everything. Fahim said to Wright, "There is something else I need to tell you. The commander who forced me to fight, the one the military killed, he was not the real leader. He was soldier, following orders. The real commander escaped. He is still operating, still forcing children to fight. I have been tracking him for 2 years. I know where he is." If this story is gripping you, hit that like button and subscribe right now. And tell me in the comments your name and what city you're from. These stories need to reach the world. Wright felt cold dread. Wright said to Fahim, "What are you saying?" Fahim said to Wright, "His name is Commander Aziz Mansour. He runs operations in 3 provinces. He has taken 37 boys in the last 2 years. Forced them to fight. Many have died. Their families are still hostages. The military does not know about him because he is careful, moves constantly. But I know his patterns. I know his network. I have been documenting everything. Fahim pulled out a folder. Thick, full of papers. Maps, photographs, intelligence, years of work. Fahim said to Wright, I have been gathering this information, preparing, waiting. I want to stop him. I want to free those boys, free their families, end this cycle. But I cannot do it alone. I need help. I need you. Wright said to Fahim, You want me to help you go after this commander? That's not something civilians do. You need to give this to authorities. Military, CIA, people who can act on it. Fahim said to Wright, I have tried. They say there is no operation in that region. No resources, no priority. They say one commander is not worth the risk. But Sergeant, this man destroyed my life, forced me to kill, made me a murderer at 13. He is still doing it, still destroying children. Someone must stop him. Wright said to Fahim, And you think that someone is us? 2 people against a Taliban commander and his network. Fahim said to Wright, I do not want to fight him. I want to kill him. I want justice for what he did to me, to 37 other boys, to their families. And I want you to help me because you are the only person who understood, the only person who saw a child when everyone else saw an enemy. I believe you will understand this too. Wright stared at Fahim. Wright said to Fahim, What you're describing is murder, revenge. I saved you so you could have a life, not so you could throw it away on vengeance. Fahim's face hardened. Fahim said to Wright, He will never stop. Every day I am in Germany studying. He is in Afghanistan recruiting, threatening, destroying. I cannot have a real life knowing he is still creating more children like I was. I must stop him, with you or without you. But I would rather have your help, your training, your experience. Wright said to Fahim, If I help you, we're both criminals, vigilantes. We'd be no better than him. Fahim said to Wright, There is difference. He destroys lives for power. We would destroy him to save lives. That is justice, not revenge. Wright stood up. Wright said to Fahim, I can't help you do this. I'm sorry. What he did to you was evil. But killing him won't undo it, won't save those boys. The only way to help them is through proper channels. Give me your intelligence. I'll make sure it gets to people who can act on it. Fahim looked at Wright with disappointment, with something that looked like betrayal. Fahim said to Wright, I thought you would understand. I thought the man who saved me would want to stop the man who created me. I was wrong. Fahim took the folder. Stood. Fahim said to Wright, Thank you for coming, and thank you for saving my life 3 years ago. I will do what I must do, alone. Goodbye, Sergeant Wright. Fahim walked out. Wright sat there, mind racing. Wright had just refused to help the person Wright had saved, had chosen law over justice, protocol over action. But Wright also knew Fahim was serious. Fahim would go after Mansour, alone, untrained, driven by rage and trauma, and Fahim would die. The boy Wright had saved would throw his life away on a suicide mission. Wright made a decision. Wright followed Fahim, caught up with him outside the cafe. Wright said to Fahim, Wait, I'll help you. But we do this smart. We don't just kill him. We gather evidence. We document his operation. We build a case so airtight that even if we can't stop him directly, someone else will have to. And we protect those families. That's the mission, not revenge. Rescue. Agreed? Fahim looked at Wright, hope returning to Fahim's eyes. Fahim said to Wright, Agreed. Rescue first, justice second. Over the next 3 months, Wright and Fahim planned. Wright used old military contacts, got intelligence updates, identified Mansour's location, his network, his schedule. Fahim provided local knowledge, cultural understanding, the patterns he'd observed over 2 years. They traveled to Afghanistan, unofficial, off the books. Wright called in favors, got equipment, arranged logistics. They weren't soldiers on a mission. They were 2 people trying to stop a monster. They found Mansour's compound, watched it for a week, documented everything. The boys forced to train, the families held in a separate building, the guards, the routine. Then they acted, not with violence, with precision. They contacted the families, told them help was coming, coordinated with a private security firm Wright knew. People who did extractions, rescues, the kind of work that existed in gray areas. The operation took 4 hours. The security team secured the compound, freed the families, arrested Mansour and his men. No casualties. Clean extraction. The boys were freed, reunited with their families. Mansour was turned over to Afghan authorities with overwhelming evidence of his crimes. Mansour went to trial, convicted, life in prison. The child soldier program was exposed, dismantled. International organizations got involved. 37 boys and their families received support, counseling, a chance to rebuild. Wright and Fahim watched it happen. Wright said to Fahim, "You did it. You stopped him." Fahim said to Wright, "We did it. You taught me that saving lives matters more than taking them, that justice is better than revenge. 3 years ago, you saved a boy who had become a killer. Today, that boy helped save 37 others. That is because of you." Wright said to Fahim, "No, it's because of you. You chose to fight for them instead of just for yourself. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done." They parted. Fahim returned to Germany, to medical school, to the life Wright had given him the chance to live. Wright returned home, to America, to civilian life, to the knowledge that saving one enemy had created a ripple that saved dozens. Years later, Wright would receive another letter. From Fahim, now Dr. Fahim Azizi, working with Doctors Without Borders, treating refugees, helping people who'd been destroyed by war. The letter included a photograph, Fahim in a white coat, standing with patients, smiling, alive, making a difference. The letter said, "You saved me when I was your enemy. I learned from you that enemies are just people on the wrong side of impossible choices. Now I save people regardless of which side they're on, because that's what you taught me. Thank you for seeing the child instead of the soldier. Thank you for choosing mercy. Thank you for showing me there is always another way." Wright kept that letter. Read it when Wright doubted whether Wright had made the right choices, whether saving Fahim had been worth the pain of losing Jenkins and Grant, whether mercy was ever justified in war. The answer was always yes, because Fahim had become someone who saved lives, who helped people, who broke the cycle of violence. And that happened because Wright had made one choice, one moment of mercy, one decision to see humanity in an enemy. That was Wright's legacy, not the battles Wright won, not the missions Wright completed, but the life Wright saved that went on to save others. The enemy Wright spared who became a healer. Some soldiers are remembered for who they killed. Wright wanted to be remembered for who Wright refused to kill, for seeing past the uniform, past the weapon, past the terrible things war makes children do, for seeing Fahim, just Fahim, a boy who deserved a chance. Wright gave him that chance, and Fahim made it mean something. That was enough. It would always be enough.